Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Tough Coffee Shop Talk. I am your host, Ron Lavoie. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. It means a lot to me to see those subscriber numbers increase. So each week, I meet with the members of the Tough Collaborative to chat about varying topics. And each week, you can join me here as I review the topic of the week. We have a wide range of topics discussing anything from business building tips to personal development ideas. And the best part is, I feel the topics can touch anybody, no matter what their adventure is in life. If they're self employed, entrepreneur, working in a corporation, stay at home parent, retired, or even in between jobs, I think there's just a little bit for everyone. So I'd like to dive right in. Let's talk about this week's conversation of the week. So this week we talked about client experience. As you know, if you've been here before, I'm a real estate agent in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So, client experience is really important to me because that is one of the number one drivers of why and how I do my business. So, I wanted to share the customer or the client experience that I've built with the membership so that they could learn from some of the things that I do. And then in turn, have them share what their experience is so that I could maybe take little nuggets from what they do and improve my client experience. And I'm sure you can all agree that if we all increase our client experience, there's no downfall. It just helps all of our clients, which helps each other. So it was a really great conversation. There was definitely some notes I made on things that I want to improve in my client experience. And I just really appreciated everybody's feedback and just the open conversation. So I hope that you can gain a little bit of insight and maybe grab a nugget or two from what my client experience is so that you can use it for your clients. And just because it's a real estate client experience doesn't mean that there can't be pieces in there that apply cross industries, cross business relationships. So yeah, let's get right to it. So for me, I talked about the buyer's experience. In real estate, of course, we have a buyer's experience and we have a seller's experience. I figured the buyer's experience would be the best one to talk about because it would impact the most people because not everybody has a selling side to it, but many will have, people buying from them. So first thing I do is I connect with the client right away. And I try and do so in the method that either they contacted me or in the method the referral recommended. So if they emailed me, I email them back. If they text me, I text them back. If the referral partner says, oh, they respond best to text, that's the way that I'm going to use. Whatever their preferred method is the one that I'll use. So it could be phone, text, email, even Facebook Messenger, just whatever makes the most sense for them, because then the likelihood of them responding is higher. And then I create a file in KV Core, which is my CRM system. So create a file in my CRM system so that I have them started as a record and I record any information I know about them. So phone number, email address, how they contacted me or who was referred to me by. Any notes on, do they have a spouse, children, pets, anything I know about them, I put in there as notes. And then I'll set them up on an auto email when possible. So of course, these are buyers, they're looking for homes. If I know what they're looking for, I'll set that up right away so that they can start looking online for what it is that they're looking for. And then I assign myself a task to follow up in a few days. So for me, tasks are how I manage me and ensure I stay connected with clients so that my brain does not have to remember those things. Because when business gets really busy, I am afraid I'm going to forget things. So if I create that task, I know it's literally written down somewhere. So it's recorded in this app so that I remember to do it. So that's how I stay on top of those things. And then I send them, I have a templated email that says what to expect when buying. I find clients really enjoy that email because it just outlines the process beginning to end, because there's so many questions along the way that they kind of have, but they don't know what they are yet. So when I send them that email, it just enlightens them of what that is and how I'm going to help them through this whole process. Once I've heard back from them, so they respond to me, I'll try and set up a discovery call with them, or I will work with them through text to discover as much as I can from them. And I've created a discovery call checklist for myself. Unfortunately, I don't get to use it all the time because sometimes when they call you back, you're in the car or whatever. It doesn't always work, but it is a great template to be able to try and figure out all of the things that you need to ask them, because sometimes when you get in the conversation, it's hard to remember all of the things that you want to learn from them. And that's really what that call is let's learn about each other so that we can ensure we create a great relationship, and that this relationship is actually the one that makes sense. Because sometimes you might be having a conversation with them and go, oh, I'm not the right person for you. For instance, I had this exact thing happen the other day. I was working with someone through WhatsApp, and it turns out they're actually looking for a commercial real estate agent. I don't deal in commercial, so I'm not the right person for them. So my goal then would be to connect them with somebody who can help them. So yeah, discovery call is important, just to kind of learn about what each other is going to bring to the table. So me to them, and them to me, in the sense of what is it that they're looking for and how can I help them. Once we've had that discovery call, or I've really started to understand what it is that they're looking for so that I can best serve them, eventually we get to that point where we have that first showing and that first in-person meeting. So I will schedule showings based on our everybody's availability, ours, the listing, and the client. I will send clear instructions to the buyer to meet me at this address at this time, just to ensure that they completely understand which home we're meeting at and at what time, because sometimes things get a little bit crossed, and I've had misunderstandings in the past where they've met me at, the one that they were interested in the most, even though that isn't the one that I necessarily set up first, as an example. So I send clear instructions, always by text if possible, so that it's in writing and clear and they can go back to it when the day comes. Next, I'll create what's called a Folio Smart folder. And this is actually my transaction management tool that I use. So this manages like a deal. And I know they're not at a deal yet, but within Folio, I can create, let's call them a task, or in this case, it'll be a meeting, so the showing. And as soon as I set that in there, it actually puts it in my calendar. So instead of going to my calendar to create this event so that I know that it's going to happen, I create it in Folio and it populates it there automatically. And the really cool part is that Folio can actually be shared with the client so they can see it as well. And I'll print out the listings. So when you go to look at the house, there's a bunch of details that the clients are going to want to know about it. I print those listings so that it's right in front of me and I don't have to be flipping back and forth to my phone or device, because that's not always the simplest way to do it. I find printing it is the easiest. And then when we're showing, when you're actually in the home, I'll point out all the important things. So the things that usually are what I say is like the important expensive items, the things that if they aren't working or need considerations are going to cost a lot of money. So things like furnace, water heater, air exchanger, shingles, things like that. I also point out, the windows and how the different panes that they are. I teach them a little trick. So if you don't know this trick, if you take a shiny object up to a window, so I usually have keys with me, or even the cell phone, the shiny part of your cell phone, if you turn on the flashlight, things like that, and put it in the window. If you count the number of reflections, that will tell you how many panes the window has. So if you hold up the key and there's 2 keys in the reflection, it's a dual pane. If there's 3, it's triple pane. So there's a little tip for you. Talk about any damage or wear that you see, pointing all of those things out. But also at the same time, you're kind of stepping back and letting them enjoy the space so that they can kind of see if this is a space that makes sense to them. The first home that you visit with a client is always going to be the longest time that you spend there, because there's the most things to talk about, because they haven't talked about any of these things before. And after that, the next showings just get a little bit easier and faster, because you've already talked about, how furnaces work and the different mid efficient to high efficient, or how I taught them the trick about the window panes, things like that. And if I'm showing multiple houses, I have them follow me when possible. So from house to house when possible. So I ensure that I drive nice, try not to lose them, make sure that you're paying attention if they don't make the light. So then you pull over so that they can get behind you. But if I'm going long distances, like all the way from the north to the south of the city, I'll have them put it in their GPS as well, just in case we get separated. All right. So next, after you've done those showings and they find the house that they want, we talk about writing an offer. So I discuss all the details of an offer, the things that we need to make decisions about. So like price, possession date, down payment, deposit, inclusions, all of those things to determine what makes the most sense for them and what is realistic from an offer perspective, something that we think will actually fit what they want, but also have the seller be intrigued enough to accept, or at very least counter. When possible, I'll go over the offer details with them in person. So I'll have one printed and ready to go so that we can talk about it in person. If that's not always possible, which sometimes it's not, I'll talk about those things. I'll say, these are the forms that are going to come. And it's just to kind of prepare them. And I'll talk about, some of the different elements of that. I'll then have to do an ID verification. We at eXp Realty have an app called FinTracker, which is included in our agent packet. It's a fantastic tool, works really well. You can do the ID verification in person, where you just scan the back of their driver's license. It fills in all the blanks in the app, and then you answer a few questions and hit submit. It's fantastic. If you are not in person, you can actually send them a remote ID verification where they do the same thing. The only extra step is, after scanning the back, filling in the gaps, they actually take a picture of themselves. So that picture is compared against their driver's license so that it ensures that they are who is on the ID. It's really slick, actually. I will also then get their e-signing consent. So if they're doing electronic signing, I need their written consent to do so. It's actually really easy to do. I'll text them a little blurb saying, hey, we need to get written consent for electronic signing. Do you consent? If you do, text back, I agree. Works really well. Then once we have kind of those preliminary things out of the way, I will send them the doc for signing. And then I usually will have them review it first, mostly so that they've opened it, kind of looked it over, and then I ask them if they want to discuss it on a phone, or if they have any questions. Some will want to go through it over the phone, which is totally awesome. And then some are quite content because we've done that work up front and they understand everything that's going on. And then we just continue negotiations until we have got to acceptance, hopefully. And I try and keep my clients informed along the way, because they're anticipating, what's going on. And just because I have things going on doesn't mean that they know what's going on, of course. So I like to have some communication to them saying, hey, I haven't heard yet, if I haven't heard back, just so that they are informed, because they're excited. So then we have the accepted offer. Yay, favorite time. Well, favorite time is actually condition removal and possession day, but accepted offer is pretty awesome too. So then I'll move the contact to in KV Core to under contract. It's just like a setting within my CRM tool. And a key step here is I turn off any auto alerts. So auto alerts is when you send listings to them. I turn those off once we have an accepted offer, because that temptation of looking at listings is really challenging for some people. And if you see a new listing that comes up that you think is better than the one that you have, it's really hard to not want to try and get out of your contract. But the only way to get out of your contract is if your conditions are not met. Changing your mind is not a valid reason to get out of a contract. So turning off that auto alert just removes that temptation for them, because the house that they offered on would be a great house for them, or they wouldn't have offered on it. I, of course, then congratulate them once they have that accepted offer, and I send documents to their broker or lender if they are needing financing. I then also send them the next steps email. So it's in writing saying, these are the things I need from you. So it's very clear. And that emails covers things like when to get the deposit and how you're going to send me the deposit. We're going to have a home inspector. These are the home inspection. These are the home inspectors that I use. Which one would you like to use? Home inspection walkthrough times are usually around noon or at the end of day, say 4 or 5 o'clock. Which one would be better for you? So that I can schedule that time. Do you have a lawyer? Would you like me to introduce you to a lawyer and have them supply you a quote? Things like that. Very clear to them then what the next steps are so that they aren't wondering what they need to do or waiting to do something even though they have things to do but didn't know that they had them. And then I also, at that point, is when I share that folio folder to them. So that was the one that updates my calendar. So that's at the point where I share it with them because in there is a timeline in their to-dos as well. So not only do I send them the next steps email, I also share this folio thing with them so that they can go log on to this dashboard anytime that they want to go see what is it that they are supposed to be doing at this point. And I, of course, then coordinate those next steps, book the inspection, call for the gas line locate, order the estoppel, condo documents, get the PCDS, etc. And I keep in touch with them during this time of trying to remove the conditions. At condition removal, assuming everything went well with the conditions, we will remove those conditions and then I will send them these, what I call the start packing email. So it's time to start packing and these are the things you need to think about. So I'll connect them with express address so that they can do an address change in their utility hookups. I have a checklist attached with some recommendations on house cleaners for their move out, movers, etc., things like that. I also ensure that their documents are conveyed to the lawyer timely, which means I need to ensure I have everything done on my back end with my brokerage so that that can be done. Just prior to possession, I will communicate to them that possession time may not be exactly per the contract. So say time of possession is supposed to be noon. It may not be exactly that time because of course we have to wait for all of the elements to be in place with the lawyers. And sometimes that isn't done timely because money doesn't get to where it needs to be or signings aren't done timely. So I instruct them not to schedule any hookups, no movers or anything like that on that day, or especially not at that time, because sometimes it doesn't happen. And then scrambling to push back those things can be challenging and sometimes expensive. I will also text them, let them know that I will text them when keys are releasable so that we can ensure that they're not sitting out front of the house at noon when it's supposed to be possession, but it hasn't happened yet. So yes, stay in constant communication. And then on possession day, when it does actually happen, we meet at the house, we go through the house, make sure everything's how we expect it to be. I supply them with what I call a possession day book, which includes a nice little cover on it, all the listing information, the listing photos, so they can look back one day and look at what the house looked like when they bought it, all the contract documents and any additional information. And then I have, after that, on possession day or the next day, I move everything to closed in my CRM system because then I have a bit of a follow-up campaign that reaches out to them periodically just to make sure that everything is happening. I use that campaign instead of me doing it just because having me ensure that I do that timely and at the right interval is challenging if I get busy with other clients. So if I can have the system automate that, it's just even better. So that is my buyer's experience. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. When we were at the meeting, I had the actual discovery call sheet that I used, and I brought the templated email of the next steps and the moving checklist and things for everybody to see so that they could look at, the different things that I actually, what the buyers actually see so that they could, maybe use my template or know to come up with their own email template to try and make that client experience that much better. But the extra bonus with that is by templating these and having these processes in place is it makes my job a lot easier. I don't know if you guys listened to a previous episode where, we kind of talked about how the systems and tools that I have in place are there so that my life is easier and so that I can ensure I'm creating these consistent experiences for my clients. And it helps me not have to increase my overhead by bringing on an assistant. But because I have all these tools in place, I don't need that, at least not yet. And I believe that I could probably scale, to a handful more clients annually without even having to consider to do that, simply because I have these systems and tools in place and checklists and templates to ease that and to make my time use way more efficient. So yeah, that's how I manage my buyer's experience. I'd love to hear if anybody had any thoughts or notes or appreciation or anything about what we talked about today. If you would like to reach me, please do so. You can do so by email, rhonda@toughsaskatoon.com. You can find me on all the socials. Well, that's not true because I'm not on TikTok. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Definitely DM me there if you like, or you can find my website, whatever is easiest for you. Kind of like in the beginning, I said I like to communicate the way that you guys do. So I appreciate your time. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Well, that concludes our episode this week. Thanks so much for being here. It really does mean a lot to me. If you haven't already, please subscribe or hit that follow button, as I'd love if you came back week to week. If you're looking for more information on the membership, check out tufinstitute.com. Or if you want more info on me and my real estate business, check out theurbanfarmhousesaskatoon.com. Looking for my socials? I'm on Instagram at rhondalavoy_TUF and on Facebook at The Urban Farmhouse Saskatoon or Rhonda Lavoy - The Urban Farmhouse and eXp Realty. Reach out anytime. I'd love to hear from you. I really hope you have a marvelous day, and I can't wait to bring you an episode again next week.